Welcome, beautiful humans. Welcome to these conversations where nothing is ever set in stone. I simply converse through experience and current connections. Lush, right? And from a conversation within my community, The Gathering, I was speaking to one of the group about where we are right now in summer, and she spoke of feeling quite overwhelmed about summer and how there's so much going on, especially she's got a small son and his clubs and so on and so forth. And so I said to her, well, remember that we have actually gone past solstice and we are now actually in the first part towards the first harvest. And she's like, oh no, that's made me feel really down to think that summer's coming to an end. Can you just explain a bit more? Of course I can. Because your communication is inherently and innately tied to the seasons, whether you are aware of it or not. And if we look at the land from which we come from in the UK, there is a beautiful foundation before religion that took us into that Celtic worship, belief, ritual, ceremony, where they saw nature as everything, and that there was no hierarchy. It was that one could not function without the other. Now we are all aware, right, of the solstices and the equinoxes, and then we also have spokes, what they call spokes, in between on the wheel. And here are those spokes, so you can see we've got the major ones. So Yule, Christmas, Ostara, which is Easter, Litha, which is summer. We've got Mabon, which is autumn. That's at the autumn equinox. And then we've got the ones in between. Now, I can go over these in greater context in their time, which I think is appropriate. I want to focus now on Litha. So prior to the summer, and let me just mention that this book is The Year of the Witch by Temperance Alden. Temperance Alden. Love that name, Temperance. So when we look before Litha, we was actually in the very active spring energy. You know, from spring, everything's in a kind of rampant urge to flourish and bloom, to reveal itself, to grow. And so for me, and I feel that everyone has an elemental appreciation. Your elemental appreciation might be different to mine in terms of where they sit in this wheel. But for me, spring is fire. You need a lot of fire. You think that little seed under the ground, it's fire to break through and rise up and to keep going towards its course. Like fire burns towards its destination if there is a path and fuel for it, right? And so it's very active, and spring, as it heads towards the summer solstice, becomes even more potent, even more focused. As the days become longer, there is more that we can appreciate. We can see more. There is more to feel, touch, taste, sense. But the underlying energy is that of creating, socializing, and keeping it simple, creating and socializing, expanding. Now, when we get to that summer solstice, that is a lot like the ovulation of your cycle. It is the midday point of the day. It is the full moon. It is pure 100% potential. 100% potential, reaching the peak. Where if you think about it, the act of celebration allows you to understand that, to touch it, taste it, feel it, and to celebrate all of the actions you have undertaken to get you towards said goal. And I feel that this is what is so important. It's what my cycle has taught me, is that just how much pressure I put on myself because there are too many goals. There are too many things. And this is our job to understand what is necessary, what is really desired. And we then have to overcome the emotional echoes of rejection and fear around that. But when we are able to practice this, you know, I feel I shared with my community how it's the first time that I'd really actively celebrated Summer Solstice. It was me and my family and another family. We went out onto Dartmoor and we cooked our dinner watching the sunset the day before that solstice. And then I got up that day and I sat under that sunrise, and I had no plan as to what I was going to do, but all of a sudden I celebrated everyone, every action that I had accomplished, and I realised just how much I had done. Oh my goodness. Relief, appreciation, understanding. The understanding of ritual, the power of ritual and ceremony at these specific points that remind us, it wakes up that cellular memory, it wakes up that part of ourselves that is woven into nature, and things become so much easier. And so we've gone past that point now. We've gone past the active side of spring and summer. Now, and you can feel this, right? Because the word that comes to mind is lazy. You feel the energy. And I actually really love that word, lazy. Hazy, lazy. Not in a bad context, but you can feel that word, especially right now with the heat. We have moved into now the first harvest, because summer's done what it needed to do. We can see that now. We can start to see, like, the leaves are starting to drop off the trees, right? It's a gradual process though. And if you take the time to watch this, it doesn't go like that. We tend to look at certain times in a season, don't we? Go, oh my God, that happened really quickly. Spring came really quickly this year. No, it didn't. It's just that we've seen it for the first time, instead of watching the micro actions that get to this point. And so, hazy, lazy, harvest, slow, receiving, active doing. Now we're in the summer element of receiving. You can feel that. That's what I mean about the lazy. More of the Z, you know? You can feel it, can't you? Z. Feels good. Say it with me, Z. So, what is the point of you pushing harder when that energy is no longer required? It's not written in the contract. It's not part of the contract. Earth is going, sorry, that got delivered last month. We are here now. Catch up and slow down. So we can see why we start to struggle in certain environments, why we start to struggle in certain seasons. Not because of the season itself, but because of our relationship with it and the way we communicate within it. Yes, there is still loads of social things on offer, right? And I feel this. I feel this, and this is something that I feel my menstrual cycle has limited me on slightly, in that this whole don't do this here, do this here, don't do that there, do this here. Because everyone's potential in those phases and seasons is different. And when it comes to summer, the season is guiding your body as to what it needs and wants and desires. And it is all social. The healing in that is social. And if I talk about myself, having such a social calendar this year, I've looked at it sometimes and thought, oh my goodness, I want to cancel this. But I take a breath I make sure that I am well fed and watered. Big difference there as well, right? And I slow down my thinking, and I know that I'm not going off hundreds of miles, I'm literally going down the road. And that now that I'm in this harvest time, this is actually slowly coming towards an end. This highly social period is slowly coming to an end. And I actually really enjoy this. The joy here is what fuels me to be able to do this. So how are you looking after yourself in this season? What changes are you starting to make in this season? Because when we come to that first point of harvest, when we come to Lammas, we are now moving into even deeper receiving. You know, how wonderful when you go back to the ancestors and how they would harvest all of that wonderful food, pickling, jamming, whatever. And there was a celebration there. They were celebrating all of their hard work, and they did it together. I feel this is a crucial element that is missing now. They did it together. Mothers, fathers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, elders, siblings, whether you were friends, deeply connected friends, whether you were neighbours, we all came together to support each other. It wasn't that you harvested on your own. So notice if you harvest on your own, because that's a big burden. Imagine that, harvesting solo. Harvesting solo. I just see this image of myself carrying the biggest bale of hay, size of my house, on my back, and I'm bent over double. Not pleasant. But if I can see in my mind's eye my friends, my family, and we are gathering together, and the bundle is more appropriately collected for my frame, and we are heading towards a communal fire where there is feast, I feel so much better. So to the lovely gatherer who asked me to speak on this, it's not that summer is over, it's that it is shifting dynamics. And it reveals a lot about how well you receive. How well you receive life, how well you receive support, how well you receive love, and how well you do in the space, the void. The void. Because it is within those spaces where clarity is found, where respite and even deeper appreciation is found. And again, I've learned a lot through my menstrual cycle about the transitionary peaks and troughs between the phases and cycles. And for me, I have found some of them to be psychedelic in nature. In the gym once, as I was transitioning into my inner autumn, the beginning of my inner autumn, and I was seriously tripping out. It was the most wonderful experience, and a tune had come on. Oh, and I just had to let that ripple through my being. I had to put the exercise down and just be in my body and listen to what was being told to me, which was that you are now moving into a different phase. Movement, action, communication, relationship is all shifting now. And how wonderfully erotic that felt. And how wonderful my body felt. And that sets a foundation as to how you encounter that next season. So what is your body telling you? What are the sensations and what are the feelings? We can journal those down. But a deeper appreciation then moves from journal to movement, or movement to journal, not just specifically the one on its own all the time. So play around with this. Let me know how you feel about the seasonal shifts. How do you respond to them? Do you know that they even exist? Do you know that they're there? Do you know that there's a choice to change? Always in love with these conversations with you, my darlings.